We'll be starting Vicky's speech in just a moment. We have Brandon here, AJ, Jessica, Eric, and Wolf. And I'll sit down for a moment and then get up and stop the camera before the speech begins.
Hello, and welcome to a video for my second speech, which was to inform my audience about an event that occurred in the last 6 months, and I chose Indy Pride. For my audience surveys, I know that most of you are aware of Indy Pride and have attended at least one Pride event, and I would like to use this time to delve a bit further into what Pride means to Indiana and nationwide, the history of Pride events, and share a few details about the Pride activities locally you may not know about. To begin, I'd like to give a little bit of background about Pride events in general. The LGBT community didn't just up and decide to have a parade one day. Pride actually commemorates some pretty big LGBT freedom movements across the country. The climate of America in the 40s and 50s was very traditional, very conservative. People were fed up with change after World War II. People wanted to go back to traditional family values. Unfortunately, with the conservative values came the McCarthy era. And everybody who wasn't a traditionalist ended up being called a communist, and homosexuals were included on many of these watch lists. At the end of the 60s, there were race riots, women's lib, ACLU demonstrations, anti-war demonstrations. The climate of America had continued to change whether people wanted that change or not, and aggressive actions against homosexuality had begun to take place. Cities performed sweeps to rid neighborhoods of gays. People were arrested for being gay, for solicitation. Men in drag were immediately arrested. Raids on gay bars were common, and most places wouldn't cater to an openly gay clientele. But Stonewall Inn in New York City would. They would also pay off the police to keep raids down to about once a month. But on June 28, 1969, 8 police officers arrived at Stonewall trying to raid the establishment, and for some reason it didn't work. It seems strange to think of a gay riot in today's communities, but it started with some of the patrons not giving the police their IDs and escalated from there. By the end of the worst of the rioting, the police barricaded themselves into Stonewall. And all of the riots throughout the nation, all the protests and sit-ins and walkouts, this was the first time the police were completely knocked on their ass. No one expected the gays to riot. Within a month or two afterwards, 2 large gay activist groups had begun in New York City. 3 gay newspapers had been established, and a year later, the first Pride parades were organized in Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York City to commemorate the events that happened at the Stonewall Inn in 1969. It took 12 years for the LGBT movement to hit the Midwest, but in 1981, Indy Pride began with dinner at the Essex House, where most people showed up in masks. Events continued with an annual picnic that drew about 1,000 people a year until the mid-90s. In 2003, Gary Brackett organized a new festival at University Park and the first Indy Pride Parade, which included a few drag queens, one float, and some antique cars. In 2010, the festival moved to the American Legion Mall and became an amazing success with over 55,000 people and 200 vendors. Now, the Circle City Indy Pride Festival stretches 3 city blocks, has 300 vendors, and over 80,000 people in attendance each year. An addition of a designated family-friendly entertainment area reflects the diversity and growth and change of the festival. The Pride Festival is the cornerstone of the Pride events, but the entire week leading up to the festival is full of activities. Community picnic on Sunday, followed by a softball charity event. Monday is Pet Pride. Wednesday and Thursday night has events at Talbot Street, the Metro, and Gary's Place. Pride events didn't start as celebrations. They commemorate a fight for freedom, a fight that has gone on for 50 years in this country and may take 50 more before our nation is united in treating LGBT individuals as complete equals. Just this year, DOMA was overturned. Right now, 30% and only 30% of the country allows same-sex marriages between states where it is legalized and states where no clauses are in place. 37 states still outlaw same-sex marriage. In Indiana, it's a felony-level crime to submit for a marriage license between same-sex partners. Some lawmakers are trying to add a clause in the state constitution that would specifically outlaw gay marriage and outline marriage as a union between a man and woman. We may have 80,000 people attending Pride events, but this state has a long way to go to reach total equality and freedom for LGBT individuals. And that's why it's important to go to these events, spend some money, and show some support. These are the events that create the funds for Indy Pride to keep fighting on behalf of the entire state's LGBT community. Now the festivals are full of fun and celebration, but they represent a struggle lasting 50 years that was definitely not all fun and games. It's our duty to support our LGBT brethren and get out and celebrate their victories at Pride events and support them through their current and future struggles. And after this speech, I hope to see everyone here at Indy Pride next year.